And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello and welcome to the weekly TNT Talk Show. I'm Tony Fasulo.
I'm Tayo Boya.
We're a couple of numpties.
Oh, speak for yourself.
Have you heard us? We discuss items that are in the public domain, and for those new listeners to the show on this program, these topics are things that other talk shows fail to address adequately. In today's show,
Hello, audience. Tayo here.
that's cheating. I haven't even told our audience what the show title is. That's sneaky. Oh, you've caught me right off guard. Very good, very good.
I've been laughing all week.
Oh, goodness me, our poor audience are wondering what the hell are these two doing? Oh, fabulous. Oh, dear. Now, let me... Oh, dear. Oh, right, I'm gonna try and compose myself and actually say what the title is, and I can't even ask Tayo to say hi. He's jumped the gun and really caught me out. Oh, and for the benefit of our listeners, in today's show we discuss New Zealand are going to say all cigarettes should be banned, but we ask, but should they be? Hi, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, you sneaky fiend. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
Hope you are well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And you, sir?
I'm very good, thank you.
Excellent.
And you've stole my thunder. I can't ask you to say hi to the audience.
I don't see how you're going to get out of that one, pal. I don't see how you're going to get out of that one.
How am I going to get my revenge?
I can't see you getting out of that one.
I can't.
Oh, you would have achieved your aim in getting me to say hello to the audience. So who knows if you haven't actually won by that analysis.
Brilliant. Anyway, let's get on with the show, seeing as that's what we're
Let's get on with the show.
Right, yeah.
Unbeknownst to the audience, we've been trying to get this show up and running for 45 minutes now, I think.
Now you've gazumped me again with the...
Sorry.
Oh,
I'll keep quiet now.
Anyway, yes, we are discussing, because New Zealand have recently said they're going to enact a law to ban all cigarettes. And we're going to discuss today, well, is that correct? So, Tayo, this is a gripe of yours, actually. Do you want to start us off?
I came across this because I was keeping an eye on New Zealand anyway. We recently put out a show titled Should Women Lose the Right to Vote? And that sparked quite considerable audience, shall we say, feedback, which prompted us to have yet another show on the same topic, but this time we invited two female guests.
Yeah.
Okay, and put in quite a robust defense. I mean, they didn't convince me, and then again, I didn't convince them.
Yeah.
But one of them, I think it was Grace Mary was her name,
yeah.
is her name, said, what about New Zealand? They've had the female vote for a long time, and their prime minister is female, and the country seems to be doing all right. So I've been keeping an eye on New Zealand, looking into whether that claim is accurate. And I must say that I think it's not, and there's some dicey things about New Zealand that we should be talking about. But one thing cropped up very, very recently is that their prime minister, who I think is called Jacinda, is her first name. I can't remember her.
Jacinda Ardern.
Ardern, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
She announced that they were going to put a total ban on tobacco. Total ban. So if you smoke, you won't be able to smoke legally in New Zealand. And this seems to me to be quite self-evidently, and I'm going to use a harsh word here, stupid. It's a stupid move. Because historically, we know, I mean, first of all, there's a moral dimension, which I won't go into now. We'll leave that for later on in the discussion.
Yeah.
But the very first thing is that who doesn't remember what happened when the Americans banned alcohol and brought in prohibition? That was the rise of the Mafia. That is what enabled the Mafia to gain a foothold, and a powerful foothold in America. I think the Mafia exists to this very day. How did they fund? Where did they get all the money from, all the funding? It happened because there was such a deep and abiding opposition to that law within the country that basically an alternative, a black government, if you like, underground, I think is a better term, an underground governance was born, which included police officers, judges, and criminals. And if you do this, if you go ahead and you ban this, especially where people feel that it's not actually fair, then you're going to get people, the smugglers are going to start smuggling because there's money to be made, so why not? And because there's money to be made, police officers will get involved in protecting them, judges will get involved in protecting them, and then she's actually just she just jumped both feet into criminality, bringing criminality into her country with both feet. I mean, it's really, really silly. It's a cultural thing.
Okay.
If you think about Saudi Arabia, for instance, they ban alcohol.
Yeah.
But it's a cultural ban. It's not a government ban. The culture.
It's a religious ban.
Yes, it's a religious ban. Religion and culturally, they are against alcohol. So everybody's on point. If you bring in alcohol and you're caught, you're in for the high jump.
Okay. So
see what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And maybe we don't yet know the details of how they're going to do it, whether or not it's a gradual phase. Because let's be honest, a lot of people understand that smoking causes problems health-wise. And in New Zealand, they've got a national health system, which is funded by taxpayers' money. And a huge number of people end up a burden on the system based on cigarette smoke, because cigarette smoke has been proven now that it leads to a lot of other illnesses, which then need help from the health service. So smokers, by having this habit, which is now obviously been discovered it's not good for you, and the majority of smokers actually do understand this and want to quit. So whether this is now an opportunity for them that they realize, goodness me, I'm going to have to really make a decision. Because I dare say New Zealand have got good intentions here, because number one, the state of the country will be healthier, clearly. And you're right in your points in what you're saying in terms of if it's done overnight, it's not good, because you're now forcing the hand of people. You're not giving them an opportunity to phase it out gradually. So if their plan, which we don't know the details of, New Zealand, is to phase it out in a period of years, say, then that's a better approach, and it does make sense. If it's a sudden ban, say right by the 1st of January 2022, no cigarettes, no tobacco, no nothing, then that's too sudden. It's too jolting. Even though clearly the intentions are good, because the health service will have less dependency, less cancers, etc., it's too harsh. And I'm actually in agreement with you.
There are, according to the New Zealand, I think they call it ministry. I don't know if they call it the Ministry or Department of Health. I don't understand. Ministry of Health, I think. It's a Ministry of Health. I'm looking at them. It just says Health, the New Zealand Health.
Yeah.
According to them, about 5,000 people die each year in New Zealand due to smoking or secondhand exposure. That's 13 people, 13 people a day. Now, I know that politicians like to come across as being people caring and benevolent and all lovey-dovey and all this. But question number one, this is a terrible question, but I'll just listen to it and then consider it.
Yeah.
Question number one, if those people don't die those 13 people, 5,000 people don't die, does New Zealand have the wealth to sustain them if they were to live another 10 or 20 years? Because in 20 years' time, that would be an extra, what is that, 10,000 people? No, 100,000 people that they have to look after, who would have died due to smoking, but now they haven't died. So that's and they are going to die of something. So you're still going to spend money on them on the NHS or whatever the equivalent is in New Zealand.
They've got an equivalent NHS service.
They've got an equivalent, so you're still going to spend money on them. And then you're not going to get taxation on the cigarettes they're smoking. So it sounds fabulous, but economically, if you were a computer rather than a human, and we fed you the algorithm and this, I wonder if you'd come up with that's a sensible idea or that's a stupid idea.
Well, you would have thought that the people in government had factored these things in, where the number of people who are getting ill due to smoking is down. It is going to be managed where, yes, they're going to live longer, which is giving them opportunity for those. Remember, smoking doesn't just affect older people. There's going to be people who are younger affected by it. And also they are contributing to taxation. So they're a net provider of tax or a net taker of tax. It depends on the age, really, because when you get to retirement age, you've paid into the system, now you're taking out. So if cigarettes are lowering your lifespan, then you're a net contributor, because you're actually paying more into the system than you take out because you're dying sooner. So you have to work that out as well as a society. Or are they doing it just as on a moral grounds, that thinking, well, yes, we're going to take the hit because we're going to lose the taxation side, but for the benefit of our population, we all know it's a good thing to do. So from a rights point of view, we could always argue the fact, well, people's rights, they can smoke and do what they want to themselves. Yes, but as long as they're not then burdening the system as a whole afterwards. Do you see what I mean? So
I do see what you mean. But first of all, I can't honestly put my hand on heart and say that I like your answer to my question. Because what you've basically said is there may be an issue. It's not that there may be an issue, it's that there will definitely be an economic benefit to New Zealand in having those 5,000 people die earlier rather than later. Simply, for putting aside the question of tax for a minute, putting aside the question of tax, if a person lives another 10 to 20 years, they are obviously, I'm thinking about old people now, okay, old age pensioners, because cigarette smoking doesn't kill you in a year or two. It takes a while to kill you. I don't know the exact age distribution. I suppose I'll look it up in a minute. But that certainly, I think that the bell curve would move towards older age than the median. So a lot of people started smoking when they were 18 and they hang in until they're 60 and then they die, frankly. So I'm saying that if you put aside the virtue signaling, which is what I think this is, by the way, I don't trust Mrs. or Miss?
Mrs. Yeah, she's Mrs.
Mrs. Arden. I don't trust her at all. I think it's all virtue signaling and very badly thought out virtue signaling. Then you are going to have to cater for those people, first of all, with pensions and Social Security and all that. Secondly, with whatever eventually kills them, most likely, because a lot of people don't die healthily. They die unhealthily. Something kills them, some disease or something. Well, which you have to treat anyway.
Old age is also a factor, but yeah.
Sorry?
Old age is still also a factor. You can die just of old age. You don't have to be of an illness. It's that your body has reached an age where it's...
The mitochondria runs out. So if you think of mitochondria as batteries, they just run out. And then you just, it's...
Indeed. So, there are people that just die. You will get to an age where...
So as an economic argument, I'd like to see some some other data, because my suspicion, which I can't prove in the court of law just now, but my suspicion is that that's going to negatively impact New Zealand society in about 10 to 15 years. By which time, of course, she may have retired and put up her feet and, be walking around with a holier than thou attitude, having devastated or helped to devastate her country's economy.
I'm not sure that banning cigarette smoke will have devastated the country.
Well, it's a bit of hyperbole for you, but I thought you'd appreciate some this early in the show.
I mean, you would have thought that the stats are available and the burden on the health service, because if you think about it, you're reducing the burden on the health service. So if people are no longer burdening the health service, then you can make provisions and reduce certain services or push them elsewhere where they're needed. So if you do remove smoking as a whole, you've got a healthier population. Maybe they can maybe pay taxes for longer, so you can work for longer. Do you see what I mean? So these figures would have been worked out. I would have assumed that by removing smoking from the population, you've now increased the likelihood of people living longer, so they can contribute more to the coffers, the purse strings of government, which enables them to use the money better. So there could be a net gain by doing it, not necessarily a loss because of the lost taxation.
Well, I think I've just had a look at New Zealand's population for 2021. This is on a website called Worldometers, meters.info.
Yeah.
Worldometers.info. And on this website, it says that the New Zealand's population is basically 4.9 million.
Yeah.
So 5,000 and 4.9 million, that's 0.1%, for goodness sakes. So we're talking about 0.1% of the population
who will die of smoke-related diseases.
Who will die of smoke-related diseases? 0.1%. I mean, okay, so more hyperbole for you. I'm sure more people die from lightning strikes than that. Okay.
Well, let me give you. Okay, New Zealand facts a little light on the ground in terms of. If we go to the UK, for instance, I've got some UK figures at hand here.
Right.
And obviously our population is considerably larger than New Zealand because the population is 4.9 million, you said. Yeah, we've got 66 million. Now, some key facts here. In the UK, 500,000 hospital admissions attributed to smoking a year. Now, that's a big number when you think that that's a lot. Now the number's going down, mind you, because actually the trend in the UK is numbers of smokers are coming down. They have been for a while, for a number of reasons: taxation, people understanding that the benefits, the smoking, the illnesses outweigh the benefits and the thrill, and people are using alternate smoking measures rather than cigarettes. They're using those puffer things, whatever they're called, which are e-cigarettes, vaping, yeah, which is, we don't know exactly, but it appears to be less of a problem than actual cigarettes.
Well, I wonder, I thought it had tar in it. Isn't tar the actual problem? No,
tar is a big problem because it's the thing that causes the lungs to clog up and causes a lot of breathing issues, yes. But listen to this. There's 74,600 deaths attributed to smoking per year.
In the UK?
In the UK.
So in 10 years, that's 750,000, which is 750,000, which would be 1.5 million in 20 years. Do we really want those people hanging around and draining our resources in the NHS? Well, seriously?
I mean...
And Social Security and all that?
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, when they're hospitalized, you're thinking about 500,000 extra people in hospital because of smoking. So
they're going to be in hospital at any rate, even if they're
they could be, but that number would significantly drop because those hospital admissions to do with smoking, obviously, are steadily coming down compared to what they were before, when obviously more people in the population were indeed smoking. And
I think we're asking the wrong question.
Go on.
You know the question we should be asking? Since it's come down, smoking has come down since the 60s, because when I was young, everybody smoked.
Yeah.
I would love to see charts of what diseases and hospitalizations have gone up as smoking has come down, because that would show you quite accurately what's taking over and killing people if smoking isn't.
Yeah.
And then we can look at the number of people who are going in, let's say for cancer or something, who weren't going in before because, quite frankly, they weren't living long enough to get it. And Alzheimer's were going into homes when they'd have died before.
Yeah.
All that is costing money. And I'm not really seeing an economic, in fact, if there is an economic effect, I'm pretty certain it's a negative one.
Well, that's why it hasn't been banned, because the difference due to the taxation and the offset where people are going into hospital can't be very big. In fact, they must have worked it out in this country, because they've touted about cigarette smoking, curtailing it, banning it, but it's never gone through, because the income generated for the exchequer due to cigarette tax is probably allowing the health service to be funded to a degree.
Which makes a lot of sense. Which to me is that is one way. That number one, that is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is which is harsher, but which I think some countries have. I'm not really sure about this. I better not say, but whether countries have done it or not. Which is to say, look, if you're smoking, we're not going to treat you for free.
Well, yes.
That's the other way to do it. So you need help. You need to buy insurance. If you're a smoker, you need to buy insurance. And possibly what you do is you put the cost of the insurance onto the packet of cigarettes.
Yes, that's a good idea, actually.
So you could do that. And then, okay, so they've got the insurance and they can smoke and there's no longer your problem. From the point of view of drain on resources for the country. Okay. So what there are ways of doing things without being this nannish thing. This comes from mummy. It's a very mummy idea, which comes from the female imperative of I'll look after my children.
Let me give
go
you
back again.
But that's actually true, though. Would you want
Jacinda Ardern thing? Sorry.
Yeah, but would you want, when your children are growing up, to have them exposed to cigarette smoke? So it's because the problem with cigarette smoke.
Well, let me tell you, I smoked when I was young, and then I stopped.
Yeah. Okay.
So if my kids were to smoke, my daughter was to smoke, I'm sure being in a house where no one smokes and brought up to be wary of things like that, it's a question of education.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying not the fact that you were smoking. The fact that a secondary smoke affects.
Well,
children.
I had secondary smoke. My mother smoked. My dad smoked.
Yeah,
everybody.
exactly.
I just said so earlier. But
I agree.
When I was young, everybody smoked.
Yeah.
And guess what? I've made it into I call myself old. I don't know. Other people say I'm middle aged, but I think I'm old age now. So I've made it into my old age. I don't believe it. My mother drank, she told me, when I was in her tummy. And here I am. And I'm taller than most people. So you know what? Yarbu and sucks to all these naysayers and nannies. Okay? Yes, it's not good for you. And if it's best if we didn't, but we know that now. The tobacco companies were lying before. They were lying to us and saying smoking was actually good for you. And we caught them telling lies. And we know that now. So if you light up a cigarette, Tyre says you're a nit. Sorry, audience, if you smoke. But frankly, you're not being very clever if you are damaging your health, because you are damaging your health, audience member. It's not. No one is kidding. This isn't a conspiracy or something. This is true. Yeah. And if you just look at the lungs of people who have died from smoke-related diseases, you can find them on the internet. You have a look at a healthy lung and you have a look at a diseased lung, you will understand exactly what you're doing to yourself. Now, that doesn't mean you should stop. I mean, we all go to hell in a handbasket that we choose. But don't blame other people for it, and understand and take personal responsibility for your personal choices.
Well, that's what people are wanting to do. And if New Zealand bring in a
Jacinda Ardern, Jacinta, is it Jacinda or Jacinda
Ardern?
Being, in my opinion, using the female matriarchy philosophy thing, I know better than you and I will protect you. She is forcing people because she knows she's mommy and she knows best. And now we'll come to the moral aspect of it, is that whatever happened to freedom? What has happened in the West? You can't tell the truth now because you go to prison for hate speech. You can't smoke because someone decides that even though you're an adult, they know better than you how you want to go to hell and in which handbasket you choose to do that. What has happened? How are we sitting? What we took our eye, we the population, we took our eyes off the ball.
Right.
Waking up in increasingly totalitarian regimes. You can laugh all you want at China, but I'm feeling like I do begin to live in China and or North Korea. I mean, it's not as bad as there, but we seem to be well on our way to getting there. And if we don't stop this nonsense now, it's going to be too late, because once the army and the police are on their side, once they've reached that level of authoritarianism, like the people in Myanmar are finding out, there's not that much you can do about it. I've lived in military dictatorships. I promise you, it's not easy to get out of it. And it's not a military dictatorship yet, but I mean, who would have ever thought that we'd be in a country, 20 years ago, would you have thought that you'd see a bearded man and you'd go to prison if you said to him, he or him? Oh, 20 years ago, you would have laughed at me.
Yeah, but 40 years ago, it was accepted that people's skin color was allowed to be ridiculed, and because of your skin color, you were treated less. So things change. World moves on.
Being treated less is one thing. When you say being treated less, we need to contextualize that.
Okay.
Being treated less in that we don't have equal opportunities is an issue. Being treated less in that you don't have equal outcomes is nonsensical.
Okay. The treated outcomes, I agree. I agree. It's based on, your outcomes should be based on your actions, not.
So now I want to ask, a bearded man,
okay,
does he have the opportunity to go into the ladies or not? Because is that really equal opportunities, or is that equal outcomes? And when you say somebody should stop smoking by force, is that equal opportunity or equal outcomes?
No, I agree.
Exactly. If you force people to stop smoking, if you force them to stop smoking, it's not that you're giving them the opportunity to stop smoking, which you should be able to do through educational initiatives. And if they do smoke, then they've had the opportunity to not smoke. Then you say, well, you know what? You've chosen to smoke. Now, here's how much extra you have to pay on that packet of cigarettes so that you're paying But
this is happening now anyway. I mean, I understand this ideal scenario that New Zealand are hoping to achieve, where smoking shouldn't be something that's even there. We know it's wrong.
Sorry, say that again. I missed you.
Right.
Smoking shouldn't be what?
Smoking is something that everybody now understands. It's a terrible thing. It should never have been brought about, really. We've discovered now that there's a whole industry that creates cigarettes. It's here to stay to a point because it's encroached in the world society, and there's companies making money, but at the expense of the detriment of individual health. And the problem with smoking, it's not like you can do it yourself. Well, you can. If you're outside on your own, no one's around you, then you've made that choice. And I think you should still be able to do that. You should be advised and say, look, this is crazy. This cigarette packet is now going to cost you 12, 15 pounds, English money. I don't know what it is in New Zealand. So that is deterring you from smoking. But New Zealand are taking this decision. I don't know. I mean, we just saw the headline and had the point of the show. I mean, I've not got a dog in a fight. I'm not a smoker, and I think people have got a right to smoke.
You do have a dog in the fight, Tony.
Well,
you do. You have a dog in the fight because it's creeping authoritarianism. There's this very famous, is it Alexander Solzhenitsyn? I can't remember who said it. They came for my neighbor, I didn't say anything. And then they came for me. And I had no neighbors to speak for me. Yes, you do have a dog in the fight. If you stand by when they come for the cigarettes, who's going to stand up for you when they come for the alcohol, or the cake, or sugar, or something? That's the problem. The principle, the fundamental principle is freedom of choice. They're adults. When we were kids, we were told what to do by our parents, and we all look forward to becoming 18, or in my case, 21, because in Nigeria, that's the age of adults, of adulthood. So I look forward to being 21, and when I was 21, it's like, well, I'm finally an adult now. And then you wake up, and then you got Jacinda Blooming Arden telling you, no, you're not an adult. You're still a child, and I will tell you what's good for you. And I'm saying, for you, sis, get out of office. They should have marched down to Government House, wherever the hell she lives, with pitchforks and explained the matter.
See, that's not the way to do it. Like you said, you got to do it in a movement and a protest and say, look, we disagree with this.
I like more muscular approaches. The way I get the satisfaction of holding a pitchfork and a torch and participating in something in the middle of the night.
See, that's not my view. I'm actually in agreement with the fact that they shouldn't be. No, I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with the fact that cigarettes shouldn't be banned. It should be an individual choice. However, there should be strict rules to where people smoke. I mean, I think those rules are already in place because they can't smoke.
Already in place. You can't smoke in public areas, mostly.
Yeah, you can't. You can't smoke in restaurants. You can't. You should be able to smoke near children.
I think the idea of not being able to smoke on a train platform in the open air is frankly stupid.
Wow.
It's open air, okay? I mean, if you're standing there, you're breathing in fumes from all the cars in that area already.
Okay. But if you're on a packed platform now, then what?
If you're on a packed platform...
See, to get around that problem, that's why they say don't smoke.
Hold on. If you're on a packed platform
yeah,
and you're smoking, then people can give you those funny looks that people give you, and you will get the... Well, some people don't care about funny looks.
No.
And they'll still light up. But, it's really...
Okay. So
on your packed platform, leave a smoking area.
Right.
For smokers.
No, I don't think there should be. People have to
accept.
You know,
you're for a liberal. You're really... That is...
I'm
not a fascist.
No.
I see now.
No. What I'm saying is, right, if you're on a platform, it's individual choice.
The fascists were left-wing.
Individual choice. Hang on. Hear me out. Individual choice. If you're on a platform, there's only you there or a couple of other people, and you've got 5-10 meters gaps all around you, light away. However, sensible. If it's got a lot of people on the platform, then you can't light away. Now, the problem is that people forget the collective. You've got to think of the collective. Your rights are important, but not more than the collective. So if there's a lot of people there, you smoking is affecting others. It doesn't stop with you. Cigarette smoke travels. It's not like you popped open a glass of beer and you're drinking it yourself. You're not affecting anyone else. You're drinking it yourself. Cigarette smoke travels. That's the problem. So you're now having the right to smoke, but you're affecting my right not to smoke. See, that's the difference. So I can see some of the arguments here that cigarette smoking should be banned in certain places. They already are, which is good. And the price of cigarette packets should be high to deter people. And obviously the taxation increases. But removing it altogether, I totally agree with your point of view, because you're now becoming nanny state. You're now affecting people's individual choices, and they should have a choice, even if they are affecting their health. It's their choice. However, I do agree with you that the health service shouldn't then pick up the tab for their choices, which are negative choices.
We have to be careful. I take it you like a bit of a tipple.
Occasionally, I like my glass of wine. Absolutely.
Occasionally, like your glass of wine. What if they then say, well, if you drink alcohol, you can't have access to the health service? What if you eat? What if you're overweight? I'm overweight. What if they say, well, if you're overweight, you can't have access to the health service? Well, these are issues.
If you go in America, for instance, all their all their insurance is tailored on your current health. So you pay dependent on your health. So if you want to eat, you want to smoke, carry on. Your insurance bill is going to be high to reflect.
Well, I think America happens to be a really, really bad health service.
No, I'm
it's
saying
a tremendously terrible health service. So maybe a more.
But it's means based, isn't it? That's how it works. It works on your current risk level,
which I'm saying I don't like. So
no, I agree.
Pointing out to America, you're highlighting the kind of system that I'm saying that no. I mean, people have already paid taxes. So let's build fewer bombs and fewer missiles and whatnot, and let's look after our blooming population.
Well, then looking after the population is taking away the cigarettes because the health service is taxable. It's a tax-funded system. If people...
What I'm saying, those people... All right, so here's another thing you could do. They don't have access to the health service, but then they don't have to pay tax.
If you're a smoker.
Yeah. Since they're making this argument for tax, and I'm like, well, it's not as if we have a choice. You're forcing us to pay tax. If you want me to just be totally independent, which I suppose I'm now beginning to understand the Americans and why they don't like Obama's healthcare system. It's like, look, if you're forcing me to look after myself, why are you taxing me for this? Or something. I know what the argument I'm trying to make, but I don't think that came out properly. In other words, you can have it one way, but not both ways. Either you're saying, I'm a drain, I'm burden on the tax system, which way I'm saying, good, I don't want to pay tax, leave me alone. Or you're saying, we will look after you, pay tax. So which is it?
It's the second one, isn't it?
There we go. Tax. I was trying to make that point all
exactly,
along.
But because they're the custodians of the tax and they now use that tax to fund the hospitals, they're going, well, do you know what? Let's reduce the burden on the hospitals. Oi, you, matey, who wants to smoke, guess what?
I've really got to become an expert in learning how to gather a crowd and get pitchforks. I don't even know where to get pitchforks from. So the first thing I need to do is do some research. Where do we get handy pitchforks, which don't cost a lot of money, hopefully for free, and torches? And then we start marching. And I suppose
I don't think. Look.
New Zealand.
You can march.
That's a hell of a long,
I'm in agreement
that's
with
a hell of a long march to New Zealand. It's going to take us quite a long time to get there.
With pitchforks.
With pitchforks.
Through customs.
What do you even do with pitchforks? You know how people always say, get out of pitchforks. And then what? Have you ever asked, well, what happens? What do you do with pitchforks? I don't know what you do with them.
I don't know either. But hey, the thing is, you see, cigarette smoke. I mean, we were saying this argument. Okay, we don't know what the bigger picture is. You say the government there's liberal. So what if they ban cigarettes, but then legalize things like marijuana? So this is part of a bigger plan because marijuana could be legalized because yes, it's not the most healthiest thing, but it's certainly healthier than cigarettes. So why not create an industry where you legalize marijuana and tax it? So it's done properly, you get good quality stuff. However, the repercussions is less detrimental to the health system because, that could be a different source of revenue. So cigarettes phase them out because it's not only lung cancer, cigarettes actually affect people in 15 different ways, different cancers alone. You can get 15 different cancers based on cigarette smoke. And lung cancer is by far the biggest. But did you know bladder cancer and esophagus cancer, larynx as well, upper throat related cancers, they're really quite high as well when you smoke. So it's not just affecting your lungs, it affects so many internal organs, cigarette smoke. So the byproduct is you're ending up needing the health service on a variety of reasons based on cigarette smoke. So yes, they're taxing it and making money from it, but the burden for the individual, they're needing help and assistance in many, many different ways. So maybe New Zealand have actually looked at this and thought, well, actually, it's a calculated discussion. They've not done it just out of hand emotional. They've looked at the figures and thought, you know what? the burden on our health system is too much. So let's phase out cigarettes, and who knows, let's bring in marijuana or something equivalent that we can also tax. So the lost revenue of cigarettes is the benefit outweighs the tax that we lose.
Well, first of all, you just pulled that entire argument from out of thin air. And no one has mentioned anything about marijuana with regards to this. So you just invented that entire line of argument.
I'm not saying it's true.
Well, you've just, I don't know what I'm talking about. You might as well say the flying pigs would come in and would all run after them with our little fairy wings and go, hey, skip along. So I'm not going to go anywhere near there. And in fact, the mental imagery now of us with fairy wings traipsing and skipping over after flying pigs has driven my other point out of my mind. Because I don't know what I was going to say, but it was really powerful. And now it's gone, Tony. Marijuana? What are you talking about? Who mentions of marijuana? Oh, yeah. Okay, good. The other thing is, I'm pointing out that you're not going to get rid of cigarette smoking. You're going to create a criminalized country. You're going to invent a create a New Zealand mafia. Because the smokers aren't going to want to stop smoking. I mean, that's an addiction. And you're just throwing away the key, which seems a bit cruel, by the way. And you're just throwing away the key, and then you're thinking they won't do something. They will do something. And there will be people who will smuggle. Now, New Zealand is a bit out of the way. You got to first of all make it to Australia. Oh, hang on, no, it's not that far from Australia. So you have a lot of Australian criminals rubbing their hands in with glee and going, got this sorted. Yeah, it's not going to go away. And then you'll have smoking dens where you just go in there and then you smoke. And the smoking dens will be protected by the police and by the courts.
Okay.
And by the way, I wonder if this is going to be tried in the Supreme Court somewhere, and the Supreme Court won't even throw it out. Okay. Because it does seem to be a lot of overreaching to me. Okay. I don't know if they have a constitution or how New Zealand operates. So the courts may be stuck, but I don't know. Some Supreme Courts are quite dodgy.
Okay. See, how New Zealand are actually doing it, I've just been reading up on it, is they're introducing this ban gradually up to 2025. So it's not an immediate one. Mm-hmm. They want to be smoke-free by 2025. So they're doing it gradually. And what they're doing is they're going to increase the legal smoking age. So anyone born after 2004, it's going to be illegal for them to smoke. So existing smokers will not be affected. This is interesting. I like this approach.
It's not interesting at all. You don't you know anything about human nature? The one thing that you want to do is the one thing you were told you can't do, especially when you see other people doing it. Can't you remember how much you wanted to drive your car? A car, any car, whilst you couldn't?
Yeah.
You do remember?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I didn't break the law for it.
Well, you didn't break the law for it. I did.
Oh,
and many other people.
You said that on record.
Who's going to go back to Nigeria when I was young? I mean, what are they going to do? What are they going to do about it?
Okay.
Right? So there'll be other people like me. I mean, myself, my cousins, we all stole our parents' cars.
But this is in Nigeria.
Well, if I was in England, I would have done the same thing. In fact, the first time I had a car crash in this country, I didn't have a license.
Oh dear.
It was different. I was over 18, but I didn't have a license. I didn't really know how to drive, which is exactly why I crashed the car.
Oh dear.
Right. So the point being that human beings want to do what they were told that they can't do. And when you're young, especially.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure that's across the board. Yes,
for goodness sake.
There's an urge.
It's more than an urge. Why did we have the flower power people smoking pot or marijuana in the 60s? What's all that about? It's an expression.
Don't have it now.
It's because you can do it now, more or less.
It was a phase.
These things are phases. I'm not saying it's going to be permanent. It is going to be a phase. But where they're going to get it from if it's banned? If it's banned, then you're going to encourage the smugglers. And people who don't even smoke now might start smoking.
Oh, I'm not sure about that one.
Well, they might. I mean, I think, do you know what is good about all this? if we're both here in 6-7 years time, I guess we're able to do another show. I say, and one of us will be able to say, "See, told you," because this is entirely for. When I say things like this, I'm really shocked that people argue because it's like to me it's entirely foreseeable. I'm not even seeing that there's even any questions here. We've tried stuff like this before all over the world, and we've seen the end result, and the end results are not good.
But,
so, okay, what you're trying to do is what somebody said is they will grow up not smoking, so they won't miss it. Yeah. But already people grow up not smoking. Nobody starts smoking, handing out cigarettes to 4-year-olds, and they get to a certain age, and then they start smoking.
Because they're going to get to that around age. Them get smoking.
Well, somebody starts.
Less people smoking, less. It's education, isn't it?
Yeah, but so what about the people don't go on holidays? They don't go to other countries. They can't pick it up in other countries. They can't bring it back with them. Then they start looking at the country and thinking, why is it that I can't go do this in my country? I thought it was supposed to be a free society. It's just too predictable what's going to happen.
You're quite a naysayer in that respect. What about people with let's go back to the one I brought up that you said, marijuana. How many people, is it an epidemic? Is it loads of people now, we can't have marijuana?
Do you know something funny about marijuana?
How do you call it, marijuana?
Yeah, what do you call it? I know, that's what I call it. It's marijuana. I can't say marijuana. It's okay. I don't know. I've always said marijuana.
Okay.
Marijuana.
Yeah.
I suppose. Where's the word from? So the J is the Spanish J, is it?
I think
marijuana.
Yeah.
Yeah, marijuana. All right, marijuana. I can have friends. All right. So marijuana.
Yeah.
What was I saying for you? Okay. Where do we get it from? I'm one of those innocents in society. I'm constantly amazed that people can find drugs because I really don't know where to get any drugs. If you offered me £1 million, if I could just go out there and come back with 1 ounce of whatever, I would be waving goodbye to the million. I don't know where this thing, and yet there are certain people you meet up with them and they have these things, come out of their pockets. You're like, where did you get that from? And they never tell you. So I don't know. I have zero idea.
I think you'd find out within a few minutes.
How?
If you had money to spare. Of course you would.
Sometimes I had money to spare and I was bored. But what are you going to do? You can't walk down the streets to stop people randomly and say, hey, do you know where to get stuff? Okay, when I worked in Ilford, South London, I think it's in South London. I know where Ilford is. I worked in Ilford and I walked into a shop to buy chocolates because that's my drug of choice. And they had these weird pipes. And I was looking at the pipe, I couldn't figure it out because it had bits and pieces that most pipes don't have. So I said to the guy, what the hell is that for? And I said, it's for, he went like that, made that kind of sound. I said, oh, okay. Interesting. Where do you get from? And he shrugged, said, I don't know. So you're selling this stuff and, this people, they don't trust me, I suppose. So when I say, where do you get this stuff from? Maybe they think I'm an undercover cop or something, but I never get a straightforward answer.
Yeah.
I don't know where other people, I mean, if you came along, Tony, sorry, the way you look,
yeah,
I'd never tell you. In fact, I'd be rather surprised that you weren't selling. There's something about you where I feel if you came in with your jacket, I wouldn't be surprised if you turned around and said, so do you need this half a kilo of coke or what? Sorry, sir. I think you got the wrong person. I
don't know why you think that of me. I really don't. I'm completely the opposite.
You look like a mafia. You look like a mafiosi. Audience, look him up. Look at his picture. Just you can actually see. When I say Tony the Knife for Sulo, it doesn't sound like a character from a movie. It sounds like a real mafia man in real life.
I'm certainly not
with
that.
a dome-shaped head, standard building. You classic. You should go to the movies, man. You should go into the movies. So do you want this half a kilo of keys or whatever the lingo is? I don't know. Anyway, so back to the point.
Yeah.
The point being, marijuana is available and probably is an epidemic. We just don't see it openly. And the same thing would happen with cigarettes, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think it is. Or I mean, somebody somewhere is making. Look at the Americans. How much money they're making out of marijuana now. Now that it's been legalized in some states.
Well, but the thing is, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Countries will look at that and go, "Whoa, If they've legalized it and they're making how much? That's something maybe we should consider, because it takes it off the street, crime then reduces. So there is arguments to be had about.
And the same thing will happen in about 20 years. Exactly the same thing is going to happen when they say we're going to bring back smoking because the crime rates are shot up. We're locking people up now for, and I wonder if they're going to lock up people for smoking, because it seems to me that that's going to be the other thing. You're going to have courts
in reverse, yeah.
Yeah, in reverse, just wasting time locking people up for smoking, which is a big waste of time. It's a very nanny-ish, silly thing. And I think it proves my point for our other show, 3 or 4 shows ago, when I said, is it time to stop women from voting? I just want to say, I was right. See?
No, because you got to remember, she's not making these rules on her own. Jacinda Ardern's just it's the government. She's just heading the government. It's like Boris Johnson doesn't make the rules. The rules are brought in and they discuss them in Parliament and decide whether they go through. Jacinda Ardern doesn't
have one
decide
office and trying to bring in these rules if all the people had been elected by men. But it is an aside. It is a side thing. But I just wanted to throw that in.
No. She is governing the country. She doesn't make the rules. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the same as Boris Johnson here. He's governing the country, but he's not making the rules. So if a law has been passed through Parliament, she can't say or decide yes or no. She's just got to do
the government. The government brings the statutes to the Parliament, and the government's not going to bring anything to Parliament if the Prime Minister says no.
No, nonsense.
What do you mean by that? Sorry,
true.
She's the head of the government. What are you
true.
Talking about?
When the laws
you can't override her.
No. The head of state doesn't decide on what is and isn't law.
No, not what is and isn't law, but what gets brought up to Parliament to be debated and to be made into law. Her agenda is basically...
Speaker in this country, and I assume
no, nothing to do with the speaker. The government, the cabinet sits and they decide what they're going to do. And if the prime minister says, no, I'm not going to do that, there's not much you can do apart from remove the prime minister.
Which they could do if they feel strongly about it.
Yes, but it's still the prime minister. It's her government. She's the one that's ultimately carrying the can.
Yeah.
So you can't.
She's culpable.
She's culpable. So she's not going to be culpable for something that she doesn't support. She was just like, no, I would even have come if the Minister of Health said, I want to ban smoking. The Prime Minister at that point can say yes or no. But it's her government. And if she doesn't like what the Minister of Health is trying to do, she gets rid of it.
Okay.
Or her, or whatever.
Let me give you an example very quickly, just on similar, not on that line itself. You earlier on in the show, you mentioned about there's going to be contraband in New Zealand if this happens. And, okay. We've got legalized smoking here, but you telling me that contraband doesn't happen even now? Do you see what I mean? It's going to be there regardless.
Because anybody doing it now is doing it for greed. In a sense, it's just trying to gyp the system.
Yeah,
and trying to not pay tax.
Yeah, exactly.
So wherever you go, the police officer will look at you and go, "You are trying to not pay tax, and that's going to affect my bonuses." That could, if enough people do it, it will affect my bonuses and my income. The judge is going to look at you and go, you know what? Who's going to pay for my salary and my pension if we allow idiots like you to wreck the system by not paying tax? Everybody in the establishment is your enemy. However, if you are breaking what is essentially a stupid law and they can make money now from it, instead of it costing them money, so the police officer can afford a nice second home in Australia, wherever. The judge can afford a nice new yacht to go boating with his friends, boating and fishing with his friends. Then all of a sudden, you've got friends, not enemies. Yeah, it's a dumb idea. It's just a genuinely dumb idea.
Okay, let me give another stat. I just stumbled on this actually, which is quite interesting. New Zealand, actually, there's 500,000 people smoke per day in New Zealand out of a population.
Out of 4.9 million.
That's a lot. Can you see the problem now?
No, I can't. It's only 5,000 a dime.
No,
Other
but can
than-
you see how many are smoking who
Yeah,
have
so
ongoing?
she's making a bucket of money from them.
Oh, indeed. So to make a decision on not smoking, see, in this country, for instance, in the UK currently, there's only under 15% of the population smoke. Compared to New Zealand, if you take the figures, for 500,000 and their population, did you say was nearly 5? So
Yeah.
a tenth of their population. Actually, that's not as high. That can't be right.
Why it's still a lot, for goodness sakes.
It's here 15% here, but you're saying 10% there. Actually, that's not as high as it is here, unless my maths are wrong.
Your maths must be wrong. It's 15% of the population here smokes.
Yes.
Yeah, so out of 66 million, that would be, what is that? Quite a lot. 10 is 6.6, so about almost 10 million then.
Almost 10 million people smoke. 15 out of 66 million. That's rather high. Is that right? 15%.
Well, that's 15%, isn't it?
Gosh.
That's 3.3 plus 6.6. So that's 9.9.
9.9 million people smoke in the UK. But in New Zealand, if 500,000 light up a day out of 5 million, that's 10%. That's less.
Yeah.
That's less.
Oh, I see. So when you put it that way, well, yeah. All you need to do, by the way, was just to compare the percentages.
Well,
10%
yes,
is less. 10% is less than.
Yes,
15%.
I didn't work that out in my head. Yes, indeed. But the average age is definitely dropping. That's interesting, actually. They're saying that the population that smokes the most is the 24 to 35-year-old age bracket. Interesting.
And you can imagine they will be smoking when their kids come along. In 2000, people from when did you say are going to be told to stop smoking?
They're gradually phasing it to 2005 with a number of actions, which I think it looks like they are.
2025.
Was it 25?
Yeah, 2025.
Oh, yes, 2025, sorry. Mm-hmm. And they're basically, the age of smoking will be raised in line with people's ages.
That's what I wanted to know. What is the age of smoking that they're headed for?
Let's have a look at these figures. I mean, they want to eradicate it. So anyone after 2004, it's illegal for them to smoke.
Oh, all right. Anyone after 2004?
Anyone who's born after 2004 now, it will be illegal for them to smoke for that generation. So 16-year-olds basically can't smoke? Yeah. And you think that's going to be okay? You think they're going to come off it? It's actually laughable. Do you know what? I think we can just wrap this up because it's such a dumb idea and a silly idea. I don't even think it's going to get to 2025 before people kick off. Yeah, there is that. I mean, they're saying that smoking accounts for 1 in 4 cancer deaths in New Zealand. It's only 20,000. It's only 20,000 cancer deaths then. That's all from a population of 5 million roughly. Yeah. So why not tackle the other 15,000 that are dying from cancer? What's the cause of this? Frankly, also I wonder drinking how much is the other one. No, there you go. I wonder how much of this is to do with less anti-smoking campaigning and education. How much money are they putting into that rather than doing this fascist thing? I agree. I think that the education side is the better option, but they're using two-pronged approach. They're raising the age of when you're allowed to smoke. They're also lowering the content of the nicotine in the cigarettes. That's interesting. But there's right wing moaning at this. They're saying, because it's not, the law hasn't been passed yet. They're due to bring it in, but they're saying, would that mean you're taking people's rights away, which is the case that you've rightly said? But lowering the content of nicotine, does that mean people are going to smoke more anyway? So these are a number of questions that haven't been answered. I mean, we've got to the end of the show. And is it a fight? This is actually a fight that's worth fighting. Excuse me. Is it actually a fight that is worth fighting in view of the fact that there are other things that could be done which are less troublesome? I'm talking about the education. Yes. Going into schools, getting people early. Correct. Turning them off when they're quite young so that they never even want to smoke in the first place. The trend is actually downward. So
Well,
naturally,
so why then this draconian,
well, it does beg
fascist,
the question. You can
matrilineal,
understand.
matriarchal, poisonous femininity?
I'm not sure it's that. You seem to have a bone, you know, a
You
bee in
know,
your bonnet is the term where
Grace Mary brought it up, and I have to pursue it because Tyre never backs down.
I mean, yeah, you. I don't think it's to do with Jacinda Ardern. I think you're taking that, you're making that jump a bit too far. It's a government that has elected members who discuss laws, and it's something that was brought forward.
That's really been unfair. I blame Boris Johnson for everything in the UK. I blame Biden for everything in America. You blame Trump for everything in America.
No, I didn't. I didn't actually, not at all.
So you did.
He could
Trump.
be a catalyst, but he's not completely to blame.
You hated Trump.
Oh, I dislike Trump immensely. Yes.
I don't hate Jacinda Ardern. I will keep pointing out where she's going wrong. Not to mention, I'm sure some audience members may know. Not to mention, she's trying to take New Zealand out of the Five Eyes. But on that bombshell,
that's another debate.
Once again, sorry, Top Gear guys, I am going to steal this because it's a very good one. Your little thing there. On that bombshell, we're going to end the show because
we've got to end the show. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll hear you. Hopefully, you'll listen to us next time. Bye-bye.
Tony is still discombobulated from the way I.
Yeah, you thrown me.
What is that word you used? Gazumped him.
Gazumped me from this. You really caught me out at the beginning of the show. You really did. So I will think up a cunning plan to get back at you.
I'd like to see it because I can't imagine what it's going to be.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.